nerderotic.com.
Welcome back to the Nerderotic channel. My name is Gary Beekler, and I come to you from nerderotic.com, and I am very happy to report that Counterpart has returned. I'm so excited. It's been a long dry spell for great television, and we've got some coming around. We got the Orville coming back, but man, this is the first great show to return, and I am so happy it won an award here with us, the Rory Awards, for Best New Show of 2018, and it also won Best Actor for J.K. Simmons, who gave the performance of his life, in my opinion, and it was just a brilliant show created by Justin Marks about, it's a spy drama with alternate realities, or dual realities, we'll say. Our reality was copied 30 years ago during an experiment during the Cold War by some German scientists. And these two realities have diverged over the last 30 years, and the only people that know about it are in a building called The Crossing, and it's the fantastic wrapped in the mundane. It is wonderful. So briefly, what happened at the end of the season one was Project Indigo was in full swing, run by Claire, who was the Shadow, who was married to Peter, who works at The Crossing. Hope you're all catching up with this. And this was all tipped off by Howard Prime, who came over to our side and met his other for the first time, who was really just kind of a humdrum guy, stayed in the same position at The Crossing for 30 years, didn't really know what they did. And we find out that Howard Prime is pretty much a badass spy. He was tipped off that there's some operatives coming over and they want to take revenge for this is what they say on the surface anyway, for a pandemic that happened in 1996 in the Prime side, and they blame our side for it. So they have sleeper cells and they're going to take some form of revenge. We don't know what yet. What they want to do is replace specific people with their counterparts. We know that's what's going on. So at the end of last season, there was a mass shooting inside The Crossing, but they only killed specific people. And we're not sure what's behind that. One of the shooters made it to The Crossing and got on the border, so they couldn't do anything with them, and it forced The Crossing to close and end diplomacy, and that's what they wanted to do. Start out with a new character, Naya Temple. At this point, before I go on, spoilers. So if you haven't seen the episode, please go see the episode and then come back and watch our review. Is Naya Temple, and she's being brought in. She's an FBI agent to help hunt a specific type of spy, and she has shown that there is another world. We do get to see some video of what might be the first counterparts meeting, and the first thing they want to do is kill each other. And she witnesses this, and then management asks her, who is just behind the camera at this point, if she wants to proceed. She says she does. The next scene hits the ground running, and we see Alice. Alice was a defector from the Prime side that Aldrich was keeping safe, and she called him Mousy, and it was very cute. We see her running. We see her dead husband. Unfortunately, he was a lucky guy before he died, because he had both Alice's at his house, and, well, that could have been a lot of fun. I'm just imagining two Melissas right now, and that'd be kind of cool. So anyways, no, sorry, I digress. Melissa's my wife, by the way. Unfortunately, Alice and her counterpart are killed by Claire. And once Claire instructs the killers to dig a ditch to bury the bodies, she kills the killers. So we see immediately that Claire and Peter are kind of on their own side right now. They're trying to protect their daughter, because their daughter is the first daughter born of both worlds, or so we think. We're not really sure. The next scene, we see Lambert is tipped off. Lambert, of course, runs the Prime Embassy, and he has been helping shepherd the people over for Project Indigo, and he is one of the people behind the whole thing, as is Claire. And as was Baldwin, who we don't see this episode. We don't see Howard Silk this episode. We just see Howard Prime. So Lambert is tipped off. We see Peter Quayle show up at his house, and it looks like he might know about Lambert being tipped off, because he did know about it. And in a later scene, he talks to Claire. He mentions that Lambert did get tipped off. She thanks him. He mentions that he has a new partner, and it might be a bit of a problem. So she's got to give him something to get this new boss off his ass, because Naya is starting to wonder why Lambert seems to be getting tipped off. Claire first says she can't do anything, but later on, she slips a note under the door, giving up the name Edgar Brandt. So now, when he was behind the door, he was in like a safe room with his daughter with multiple locks. So I guess they take turns staying with the daughter at night, so nobody will come and grab her, because I think both sides would come and get her. So that makes things even more interesting. We also see a scene with Peter and Roland, who is Claire's father. Well, the original Claire's father, not Claire, Prime Claire's father. And he also works in diplomacy for the crossing. And they are talking to management, and management states in those uncertain terms that anybody from Prime side is an enemy. So they have a makeshift prison downstairs in the crossing, and everybody who was over there legally on visas and everything, they're locked up, which is pretty hardcore. We see Howard Silk coming to work, and he sees that Peter has a new partner. He also immediately sees there's a bit of a problem. So they meet in the bathroom. They have a quick discussion of how fucked they are because they have paper-thin alibis. They could be exposed at any second. They've just been lucky at this point, which plays into this later, we find out. And they really don't know what to do at this point. They just need to keep her off Peter's ass, but it's only a matter of time till he gets caught, and Peter knows this. We see that Emily has returned to Howard. Now, this is not Emily Prime, who we saw last season. This is the Emily who was in a coma. She is woken up, and she has no memory, but she immediately figures something is off with Howard, which is interesting. But she's very frustrated. She can't remember words. And we see one of Howard Prime's biggest flaws. He's not a very good caretaker of a sick woman, and the real Howard would be much better suited for this. She figures this out, even though she can't come out and say it. She does later say to a doctor she can't trust him, which is very interesting. We see a scene with Lambert and Claire. They meet and basically say that Project Indigo is going full swing and everything's great. Peter tracks down Edgar Brandt. He is able to capture him, and the only thing he gets out of him is there is some kind of a farm in Sacro that he used to be a courier, so he would drop off his packets there, but that's all he knows. And Peter offers him to the jail, basically, in the crossing to keep him safe, where he eventually kills himself. Now, somebody must have got to him, and they have figured out that there's still people from Project Indigo in the building, and that's what Naya is there for. She is supposed to be this ultimate spy hunter. Now, as a new character, she didn't really offer much in the first episode for me. She was just kind of dry, so hopefully they will add something more. She just doesn't seem like she fits in right away, but we'll see. It's very early on, and this was just a setup episode. Howard is taking care of Emily, and he sees somebody lurking outside of his house, and he chases them, and he figures it's Claire, so he confronts Peter about it. In the meantime, Peter asks him to hide some funds and make it look like he's paying an informant that he's not really paying to keep Naya off his ass a little bit. Howard agrees to do it, but he's, grumpy about it. We see a scene with Emily walking the streets on the advice of her doctor, and she's trying to get some of her memory back, and she walks back to where she gets hit by a car, and she remembers she's making out with somebody that's not Howard, and she realized she had been cheating on him, so she goes home. She's pretty upset, and she mentions to Howard, not the cheating, but the fact that, I used to work in strategy, and I kept that from you, and I lied. And Howard said, I didn't know the good time to bring it up. I'm just glad you're back. Why don't we just start over? And it looks like they're just going to start over, and that's pretty cool. And that was pretty much it. There was not a lot that happened. It was a lot of setup. Most of it happened at the very end. So at the very end, Claire and Howard finally meet, and they just have a nice little conversation like, we could be friends, and Howard's like just kind of smirks at her and walks away. Quayle has had enough. We're one episode in, and he's just not going to hold up through this. So he takes the money he got from Howard to pay that informant and goes and gambles with it. And we get a voiceover that's him recording a confession of everything just in case something happens to him. But in that confession, he talks about how he's lived by luck, and we see him gambling, and he wins roulette and doubles his money. He ends up just giving it to a homeless guy, but he puts that recording in his safe, which I'm sure will play into this later in the season. That's a big deal. But the biggest deal was at the end. We see Naya talking to management, and they just ask her, if you ever hear something, you bring it to us immediately. She agrees. She walks away, and then we kind of back out through the camera, and we see a member of management. He's working some kind of old apparatus that's some old computer that folds up into a case. The thing is, we don't know where or when he is. I think there really is something up with management. I think there's only one management, by the way. That's just my opinion, and they're playing games with each other, and maybe this is just some science experiment, or maybe it's aliens, who knows. But that's where it ends. So it was a very good episode, not a great episode, but a very good episode, a great return. I kind of wish they would have done back-to-back episodes, but it's okay. I can't wait for next week. We will be covering every episode. Now, from here on out, we're going to do it live. So please join me at 10 p.m. Pacific time, and we will discuss Counterpart live. It airs if you have it on Amazon Prime. It rolls out at midnight. Otherwise, you got to wait for 9 p.m. Sunday for it to air on Stars. But we try to be as early as possible with these reviews. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like what you hear, and I hope you check out this show. Please like, share, and subscribe. Check out nerdrotic.com for our live TV review schedule. The shows we're covering right now is Counterpart, Night Flyers, Doctor Who, and Titans, and the Orville is coming. Ooh, I can't wait for the Orville, and Project Blue Book in about 3 weeks. We will be covering that show. We also have a Patreon where we give you stuff. It's patreon.com/nerdrotic. You all have a great day, and may the small folks sing songs of your greatness.
Nerdrotic.com. Please subscribe.